Welcome to the listening section of the TOEFL mock test, brought to you by Spinta. This section measures your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. In this section, you will listen to several conversations and academic lectures. Each conversation and lecture is followed by a number of questions. You will hear each conversation or lecture only one time. You may take notes while you listen. You may use your notes to help you answer the questions. Some of the questions will replay part of the audio for you. Answer the questions based on what is stated or implied by the speakers. You must answer each question before moving on. You cannot return to previous questions in this section.
Good morning. Today I want to talk about ecosystem resilience and the ways we restore damaged environments. Resilience is a system property that describes how much disturbance an ecosystem can absorb without changing its basic structure and functions. When resilience is high, the ecosystem can recover after events such as storms, fire, or pollution. When resilience is low, a disturbance can push the system past an ecological threshold into a very different state. To make this concrete, consider two examples. First, coral reefs exposed to repeated heat stress can shift from a coral-dominated state to an algal-dominated state. Once the reef crosses that threshold, it is difficult, and in some cases impossible, to return to the former state without major intervention. Second, many lakes that receive excess nutrients undergo eutrophication. Algal blooms reduce oxygen and lead to fish kills and a loss of ecosystem services such as fisheries and recreation. What underpins resilience? Biodiversity and functional redundancy are key. Functional redundancy means that several species perform similar ecological roles, so the loss of one species does not automatically collapse a function like pollination or decomposition. Keystone species also matter. A classic example comes from Yellowstone, where the reintroduction of wolves in the mid-1990s altered elk behavior and population numbers, which in turn allowed riparian vegetation to recover. That cascade shows how the presence or absence of a single species can affect structure and resilience. Restoration ecology offers a toolkit to rebuild resilience. We distinguish passive from active restoration. Passive restoration removes the stressor and allows natural recovery. For instance, reducing nutrient inputs to a lake can over time improve water quality. Active restoration intervenes directly. Examples include planting native trees, reintroducing key species, or in marine systems using coral gardening, where coral fragments are cultivated in nurseries and later transplanted to degraded reef areas. Let us look at two case studies. The first is the Chesapeake Bay program, which combined reductions in nutrient loading with efforts to restore oyster beds and wetlands. Oysters are filter feeders, and their recovery helped improve water clarity and reduce algal blooms. The program relied on adaptive management, meaning managers monitored results and adjusted actions when outcomes differed from expectations. The second case is coral restoration in the Caribbean and Indo-Pacific. Researchers now use assisted gene flow to transplant corals with greater thermal tolerance to areas likely to heat up. This is controversial, but it attempts to increase the chance reefs survive warming. There are practical techniques that often appear together. Removing invasive species can free resources for natives. Soil amendments can restore nutrient balances in deforested areas. Rewilding projects reintroduce keystone engineers like beavers, which create wetlands that enhance flood control and biodiversity. Importantly, restoration is spatial and temporal. Projects must consider landscape connectivity so species can move and recolonize. They also must be long-term, because recovery can take decades. Social and economic dimensions cannot be ignored. Restoration succeeds when local stakeholders are involved and when ecosystem services are valued in planning. For example, engaging fishers in reef nurseries can reduce poaching and provide livelihoods. We often say that restoration is as much about people as about plants and animals. That phrase highlights that legal frameworks, funding, and community buy-in are central to whether a restored ecosystem remains resilient. Finally, I want to emphasize adaptive management and monitoring. Because ecosystems have nonlinear dynamics and potential thresholds, managers must treat interventions as experiments. Monitor indicators such as species diversity, water quality, and functional metrics. If metrics show unexpected trajectories, change the strategy. In summary, resilient ecosystems combine biodiversity, functional redundancy, and healthy processes. Restoration can rebuild resilience, but it is complex, interdisciplinary, and requires long-term commitment. That concludes the lecture. We will now move to questions and a short discussion about how these ideas apply to local restoration projects.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
We often say that restoration is as much about people as about plants and animals.
For more TOEFL mock tests, as well as IELTS and Cambridge practice, visit www.spinta.org. We provide updated tests every single day, AI feedback for your speaking and writing responses, and access to a wide range of high-quality mock tests to help you prepare with confidence.